Kick it off with the hot topic of the hour. President Trump following through on his tariff promise yesterday as levies against Canada, Mexico, and China took effect last night at midnight due to the country's failure to address the fentanyl crisis flowing into America. This includes 25% tariffs on Mexican and Canadian imports, a 10% tariff on Canadian energy, and an additional 10% tariff on Chinese imports, taking the tariff on China up to 20%. We've got retaliation across the board. Beijing has retaliated with a 15% tariff on U.S.-grown chicken, wheat, corn, and cotton, and a 10% tariff on soybeans, pork, beef, seafood, and fruits. More American companies are also added to Beijing's so-called export control and unreliable entity lists. Canada's Prime Minister, meanwhile, Justin Trudeau, also responded with a 25% tariff against $155 billion of American goods, beginning with tariffs on $30 billion worth of goods immediately. The tariffs on the remaining $125 billion on American products in 21 days' time, says the Prime Minister. Our tariffs will remain in place, he says, until the U.S. trade action is withdrawn. Trump is still prioritizing American citizens and every American dollar when it comes to war. He has paused all military aid to Ukraine after Friday's intense Oval Office meeting with Zelensky. The Ukrainian leader told reporters yesterday he thinks a deal to end the fighting is, quote, still very, very far away. And he believes Ukraine's partnership with the United States was strong enough to keep an aid flowing into Ukraine. Trump commented on Zelensky's prediction. Watch this.
I want to see it end fast. I don't want to see this go on for years and years. Now, President Zelensky supposedly made a statement today. He said he thinks the war's going to go on for a long time. And he better not be right about that. That's all I'm saying.
Vice President J.D. Vance sitting down with Fox's Sean Hannity last night with perspective. Watch.
You have Zelensky. He goes to Europe, and a lot of our European friends puff him up. They say, you know, you're a freedom fighter. You need to keep fighting forever. Well, fighting forever with what? With whose money, with whose ammunition, and with whose lives? The president is actually taking a much more realistic perspective and saying, this can't go on forever. We can't fund this thing forever. The Ukrainians can't fight forever. So let's bring this thing to a peaceful settlement.
Yeah, and that was the point of the Oval Office meeting, Brianna. You had Zelensky in the Oval Office. You would have thought that he recognized that it is the U.S. aid, it is the U.S. weaponry, and perhaps that conversation could have gone differently.
It absolutely could have gone better. You know, when Joe Biden was in office, Zelensky spoke to him in a very similar fashion. The only difference is that Joe Biden was not willing to call Zelensky out for quite literally the disrespect we've seen. And Donald Trump won in part on a mandate to stop treating Americans as though we are just a tax farm that are meant to pay for endless wars, especially a war in Ukraine that will not be won the way that Zelensky and others think it can be won. Donald Trump wants to stop the bloodshed. He also wants to stop Americans being exploited.
Yeah, we've got the president addressing the joint session of Congress tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern. This is 7 weeks after beginning his second term. I spoke with the Speaker of the House on Sunday to get his take about the action tonight. Watch this.
Taiwan Semiconductor is announcing that they will be investing at least $100 billion in new capital in the United States over the next short period of time to build state-of-the-art semiconductor manufacturing facilities. This will create hundreds of billions of dollars in economic activity and boost America's dominance in artificial intelligence and beyond. Semiconductors are the backbone of the 21st century economy, powering everything from AI to automobiles to advanced manufacturing. And we must be able to build the chips and semiconductors that we need right here in American factories with American skill and American labor.
Well, fireworks, you know, in a great way. President Trump is coming in a triumphant return to Congress to address us as the president once again. And in the first month of office, he has accomplished so much that it could fill 3 hours. I suspect he'll speak in a shorter time frame than that.
All among the topics tonight, White House officials telling Fox that the renewal of the American Dream speech will consist of 4 sections. The administration's accomplishments so far this term, the progress made on the economy, the president's push for Congress to pass more border security funding, and his plans for peace across the globe. Several Democrats already boycotting the speech, while others are bringing recently fired federal employees as their guests. The president may also mention yesterday's announcement of the world's largest chip maker's big investment, as you just heard him speaking there. This is the latest major investment win for Trump. Others include $600 billion from Saudi Arabia, $500 billion from Apple, another $500 billion from SoftBank, Oracle, and OpenAI, and $1 trillion expected to be invested in the United States from Japan. A lot of wins under his belt, Cheryl, going into this speech tonight.
Right, and he needs to make sure that he, tells the American people exactly what these last 6 weeks have done for them, and hit on the accomplishments, in particular, the southern border, big accomplishment. Now, the tariffs, that's something that, you brought up at the top of the block, Maria. That's certainly going to be something that's going to, it's got the markets nervous. It's got a lot of people nervous about, are we looking at a trade war? Is it going to hurt the economy? The economy is on kind of weak footing right now, but he can address those things tonight. He can make sure that he uses language and puts down in clear terms his reasons for all of the actions that he is taking right now, getting us out of $36 trillion in debt, which is strangling the United States. So it's going to be, obviously there's a lot happening today. There's going to be a lot more happening tomorrow. This is the new era of the Trump administration, but he needs to make sure and get that message out and make sure it's clear.
Yeah, and, there have been lots of questions about the economy. Tariffs are just the latest. But, Chris, you look at what DOGE has done in terms of cutting federal spending. There are lots of questions in terms of whether or not this is going to lead to a further slowdown. We know that GDP now is expecting a contraction of almost 3%. In the first quarter, Chris. I've been asking this question ever since the Lindsay Group put it out there back in February 20th. Can DOGE induce a recession with all of this cutting? And what about the tariffs and the pressure that brings to bear as well?
Maria, the financial markets like consistency, they like predictability, and this president has done some wonderful things, but that's been a problem, right? It's been problematic. These tariffs, Cheryl's right on. These tariffs are really scary, and I think you're right. It has a real possibility of bringing on a recession, at least in the short run. Long term, there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic. I mean, Apple and all these other companies falling in line is incredible. There's some things that have been incredible. We're hoping what these tariffs are is really just kind of positioning. We get quick agreements, and these things go by the wayside, because no one can benefit from these tariffs at this level for a long, extended period of time. There's no question about it. So
well,
I think,
see.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So we will see.
We'll see, because we've got retaliation coming up from all of the countries impacted. We are just getting started.